Hello everyone, Niklsun here, and welcome to Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. I'm your host, and on this show, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we'll be going over all of the day's movie news, as well as going over what it means for the production in general, such as casting decisions, trailer announcements, director announcements, things like that. So, without any further ado, let's get started with today's Hot Topics. Yesterday, the news was made official that Tom Rothman, the previous CEO of 20th Century Fox, is actually going to be replacing Amy Pascal as the CEO and chairman of Sony Pictures Entertainment. Now, this, to me, spells danger for Sony Pictures. And the reason is, one of the main financial factors going into running a studio right now is franchises. It's the world that we live in terms of Hollywood entertainment. Franchises, major franchises. Looking back on what he did, what Tom Rothman did while his tenure was at Fox, mind you, he was the CEO of Fox for 12 years, I believe. And for the first couple of years, he actually did some really good things with them. He helped develop the X-Men franchise. The first couple, he was the one who was there, I believe actually for the second one. I don't believe he was there for the first one, at least as the CEO. He had been working with Fox since, the early 90s, but there were a lot of things that happened during his tenure there. One, he was the one who was actively pursuing the family-friendly Fantastic Four. He was the one who thought that the adaptation of Daredevil that we got was the right way to go, and also eliminating the lawyer aspect from the movie. Because if you watch the director's cut, well, it is better. It's still not a great movie. It's a really good movie, but it's not a great movie. But the director's cut incorporates all of the lawyer sequences where he was actually going around investigating this case that ended up at the end of the movie tying into the overall thing that he was trying to do as Daredevil. And Tom Rothman was one of the big people who decided that that part of the movie needed to be excised for the theatrical cut. He was also the one who, not only did he want to pursue Alien vs. Predator as opposed to the Alien 5 idea that both Ridley Scott and James Cameron were developing, not necessarily saying that was going to go anywhere, but they were coming up with ideas, and he decided, no, we're going to hold off on that. We're going to go ahead with Alien vs. Predator. But on top of that, he was the one who decided Alien vs. Predator needs to be PG-13. We need to reach a wider audience. To hell with what the old movies were, to hell with the nostalgic factor and the built-in audience those movies had. We're going to go after the teenagers. And that's who we want, regardless of what the franchise is, and they just did it wrong. He was also the person who decided that Die Hard needed to be PG-13 when they did Die Hard 4. Like, there were a lot of things. He was also the one who was just I don't even want to say micromanaging, because that's too generic of a term. He was nano-managing, I guess if you could say, the production of X-Men Origins Wolverine. He actually went on set and overruled Gavin Hood on a lot of different things and made changes to the movie without his knowledge. Like, I mean, that's how controlling this guy was. He was also the one who decided to, I don't know if he had the final say, but he was one of the guys who came up with the idea to sew Deadpool's mouth shut. I mean, come on. Come on, really? Anybody out there who, and I said this on the last video when I talked about Tom Rothman being a potential replacement for Amy Pascal, the Deadpool leaked footage that came out at the end when he goes, "Hi, Tom," that was directed at Tom Rothman saying, "Hey, look, we got our movie made now because you left, because we actually have people who care about these movies." Tom Rothman has also gone on record to say that he is not a fan of not a fan of superhero movies, which right now is the biggest moneymaker in Hollywood's history. Right now, there is no genre, nothing that has beat superhero movies right now as to the type of film that can generate the most profit. But on top of that, the quality of all the superhero movies that have been coming out have been getting better and better, save for Amazing Spider-Man 2 and the odd one here and there. But Sony has had some really good hits. I mean, they had Spider-Man 2, the one with Tobey Maguire, is still hands down one of the absolute best superhero movies that's ever been made. So they do have a track record that they could build upon, but Tom Rothman is not the right person to do that, at least in my opinion. Now, that being said, it's been a few years since he has left Fox. He has helped develop TriStar Productions again. He has helped build them back up. Now, they've got a couple of movies coming out, such as The Walk, which is the new Joseph Gordon-Levitt fronted movie directed by Robert Zemeckis, that's going to be about, I want to say Guy Petit, but that's not it. Pierre Petit, something of that sort. I can't remember his exact name, but he is the guy who, back in the mid-'70s, was the one who did a tightrope walk across the World Trade Center buildings. So, I mean, that movie looks interesting, but that's a Robert Zemeckis movie. Rothman was the guy that kind of helped put money into that project. But still, I am not a fan of this. This to me spells doom, because on top of that, he is not going to want to go to any radical changes with Spider-Man. Now, that is something that I think that this franchise needs. They need to change it up. He is going to be the one that is going to butt heads more so with Kevin Feige, I think, than Avi Arad did. Because Tom Rothman already has a very tenuous relationship with, I believe it's Ike Perlmutter. I am probably mispronouncing that name, but the actual head of Marvel. He has butted heads with him over the past decade about how to handle these properties, and he says, no, to hell with you, you don't know how to do it, we're going to do it. And that's why he has had several failed franchise installments over the years. I don't know. I am very, very scared. This, to me, spells doom for not only Spider-Man. This is probably going to greenlight the Men in Black 21 Jump Street crossover, even though right now I'm not on board with that. The fact that Lord and Miller are actually interested in the idea at least gives me a little bit of hope, because so far they have not had a negative track record. But I have a feeling that even if they say, you know what, we're not going to go ahead with that, Rothman is going to be the type of guy that's going to come in and say, you know what, no, we're going to go ahead with that. Those two franchises made money like 10 years ago. We're going to go ahead and do that. But we're going to make it PG-13, which is going to completely dilute the 21 Jump Street franchise. There's so much bad coming from this. I mean, he is the type of person where, even though, yes, it is a business, he has profit 100% over quality. Does not matter the cost. Again, bringing back to Die Hard, he would rather see a franchise that has flourished as an R-rated franchise. He would have rather seen that be watered down just so that they could get more ticket sales. And then look what happened with number 5. When Die Hard 5 came out, they had to just say, you know what? No, make it R. Make it R. We got to make it R. But didn't care about the quality. I mean, you got to look at things like this. I know that he didn't really have anything to do with Die Hard 5, but still, it was the studio's kind of rushed decision to kind of get the franchise back to where it needed to be. And they focused on it just being R-rated and full of action, when it should have focused on storyline and actually not making John McClane a weird superhero that really had no purpose in the movie. Still, to me, I hope that he's had a change of mind in terms of how he's going to want to run studio. This is still very early. We still don't know exactly what his kind of time frame or look at what Sony Pictures is going to be. So there's still time for this. This still could potentially come out to be a good thing for Sony. I, however, do not see this being the case. He has just burned too many bridges in the past, especially considering the fact that he does not like superhero movies. And lo and behold, Sony's one moneymaker that they have is a superhero franchise. I mean, now that's kind of under the control of Marvel. So having Tom Rothman now running the studio, to me, spells very big danger. I am not excited for this. My mindset could be changed depending on the types of projects that he decides to push forward, if he decides to be riskier, because that's what Sony needs right now. Sony needs to be riskier. I'm not talking interview riskier. I'm talking they need to take chances on movies, not give a $150 million budget to a movie that doesn't have a pre-established franchise. I'm talking give an $80 million budget. Give the budget the film requires. Don't just go in and say, well, this movie might not make all its money back, so we're going to cancel it altogether. No, try to rework it and try to see what you could do to bring that budget down, and then work with the filmmakers. Give them a little bit of leeway. That's Tom Rothman's biggest problem. He does not know how to give the filmmakers in charge of that production the space that they need to create their vision. He goes in and says, no, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. My biggest fear is that we're going to get another Amazing Spider-Man 2, and we're going to get a film that feels like it was made by a committee. That's my biggest fear. I hope that I'm wrong, but let me know what your comments are, or what your suggestions are in the comment section below. Do you think that Rothman was a good replacement for Amy Pascal? Do you think that his titulage at Sony is going to put that company into the ground even further than they already are? Or do you think that he can radically reverse what has happened to Sony and get them back in the green? Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. And if we do hear more information about this topic, I will definitely update you guys on here. With the Lego movie coming out just over a year ago and being the smashing success that it was no surprise that the studio came out and announced not only a few spin-offs, but the inevitable sequel. Now, today, actually, technically yesterday, we have our official director for the movie, and we have our official title. And in keeping with Phil Lord and Chris Miller's style of humor and their style of titling their sequels, the Lego Movie 2 is officially known as the Lego Movie sequel, which to me, I mean, you got to go 22 Jump Street because they moved across the street. Now this is the sequel. I mean, these guys are so smart with their simplicity. Like, it's great. I absolutely love it. But we have Rob Schrab, who has been a director of such TV shows as Community, The Mindy Project, Workaholics, Parks and Rec. He is going to be the one who is actually going to be directing it. Now, originally, I believe it was Chris McKay who was picked to direct the Lego Movie sequel. But as they were developing, they saw the potential for a Lego Batman movie. And Chris McKay said, you know what, I got to do that one. That one's going to be great. And so we got Lego Batman coming out. We have Lego Ninjago coming out, which I think that's going to be really intriguing as well. But then in technically 3 years from now, we will be having the Lego Movie sequel coming out. So there's still no word yet on what the story is going to be about, outside of the fact that this movie is set 4 years later, so keeping within the real-time aspect of how much of a distance there is between the two installments. It will also focus a little bit more on the boy in the real world. Now, whether or not that means we're going to have more sequences set in the real world, or Emmett is actually going to be aware of this kid and aware of what he can actually do, and the fact that he is actually the one who is controlling a lot of these things, we still don't know that. And to me, that's something that I like. I don't like knowing everything about a movie. Like, I reached out to a friend of mine yesterday because I was watching a podcast, and they were going to be talking about the new Star Wars rumors and supposed plot points that have been spoiled. And so I messaged them out saying, you know what, I have been withholding on reading this. I want your opinion as to whether or not I should just say screw it and watch it, or if I should just skip over it. And I ended up watching it. And it was a good thing that I did too, because that storyline, like, first off, I do not believe for 1 second that storyline is completely real, because certain characters get eliminated right off the bat. Other characters we don't see until the very end, which, from what we've been hearing about the production, is not the case at all. I'm not going to go any further into it for those of you who have avoided those spoilers as well, just because I personally don't think that they are legitimate at all. I do not think they are correct at all. There might be one part of it that might be true. It might be very good conjecture that works so that when you're watching the movie, you go, hey, you know what? I was right about that one little spot saying that they walk down a hallway. Oh, look, they're walking down a hallway. But no, the rest of it is, to me, completely fabricated, because it doesn't make sense why certain things would have happened while the movie was filming that, if this was true, would not have affected anything. So I don't believe it for 1 second. But getting back to this, I like not knowing about it. I want to go into the movie really very similar to how I went into the first one, because when you watch the trailer for the first one, you really don't get a sense of the story. You just get a sense of that it's going to be very character driven. It's going to be funny. It looks like the animation's done really well. And it looks like it's going to be exciting. I think that's what we need to know about this movie without really knowing any more key plot points. So I'm on board with this. We know that Lord and Miller are returning to write the script. They are not going to be directing it, but they are also overseeing the other spin-off films, which means that there is going to be a continuity of sorts over the films. So a lot of this is building to a very cohesive universe, and we're going to be getting, they're kind of doing a Lego shared universe with this, because we're getting a movie every year. This year we're not, but 2016 we're getting Lego Ninjago. That's going to be opening up on September 23rd of 2016. Then on May 26th, 2017, we're getting our Lego Batman film. And then on May 25th, 2018, we're getting the Lego Movie sequel. Now, most likely after that, we'll get either different spin-offs of Lego, or we'll get sequels to Ninjago or Lego Batman. It's still up in the air as to what's going to happen after that. They're waiting to see whether or not these movies are actually going to be successful. I have no doubt that they're going to be successful, especially with Lord and Miller being the ones who are in charge of this. Now, one other aspect that I'm really happy about is the fact that they are taking their time with it, that not next year we're getting Lego Movie 2, because Phil Lord and Chris Miller work so well when they are not rushed. And I know a lot of other people will work better that way as well. Some people actually work better when they are rushed. But allowing them to develop a proper storyline for this movie and then move on from there means that we're going to get a quality movie as opposed to a profit movie. Very much like I was talking about with the Tom Rothman article. These guys know that, and even J.J. Abrams did that to a sense with Star Trek Into Darkness. As much as people would maybe not 100% like the movie, or I had a few issues with it. To me, it didn't feel like a whole film. It felt like it felt like there were certain segments of the film that were missing because they focused too much on parts that they were trying to keep hidden from the trailers. Maybe if the marketing had been handled better, I would have enjoyed the film a little bit more, but I still did like it. I like how it went darker. I like the action set pieces. I did like Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan. But overall, I didn't like the Zachary Quinto yell at the end and the role reversal of their characters from Wrath of Khan. That to me did not need to be in there. So with taking their time, they're able to develop characters better. You could see even watching Star Trek Into Darkness, you got better versions, well, not better versions, but you got a little bit more insight into Kirk. You got more insight into Spock and their relationship, and that's what they really wanted to focus on. So giving filmmakers time to develop these stories means that we're going to get worthy sequels. We're going to get worthy continuations of these characters and these stories, which is why I'm happy that they're giving them the time that they need. They even pushed it back because originally it was supposed to come out in 2017. But then when they announced Lego Batman, they pushed it back a year. Instead of saying, no, Lego Movie 2 or Lego Movie sequels coming out in 2017, we're going to do Lego Batman in 2018. No, they pushed Lego Movie sequel back to give it a little bit more time to develop the story and to really get the crux of the movie perfect. And so I am definitely on board with this. Rob Schrab coming on board, yes, I am down with that because Community is one of my favorite comedy TV shows. Mindy Project, while I've only seen a few episodes of that, I did like it, but I love Workaholics. I think that's just a great show. I haven't seen too much of Parks and Rec, and it just did have its series finale. So that's a show that I'm going to get into because I think it's on Netflix right now. But yeah, I'm on board with this. I mean, the Lego Movie sequel is not coming out for another 3.5 years. So it comes out May 25th, 2018. We've got enough time before then and now for them to really develop a great script. And they're probably going to get started on the animation sometime within the next year to year and a half. Because it's going to take a while to develop that movie and to really create that world. So I'm excited for it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you like the title, the Lego Movie sequel? I personally think that it's nice, but, well, not nice. I think that it's actually a really good title, but I'm more curious to see where they're going to go with the future movies. Like, are they going to go the Lego Movie second sequel? Or are they going to do the Lego Movie trilogy? Or, what sort of wordplay are they going to do? Because they're very meta. They're very connected to the fact that these movies are movies. And they're playing up that fact. And so I really like that aspect. And, yeah, I'm really curious to see where it's going to go. But I'd love to hear your guys' comments. Put a comment in the comment section below. And if we do get more information about this topic, I will definitely update you guys on here. X-Men Apocalypse just keeps adding cast member after cast member after cast member. It looks as though now Ben Hardy has joined the cast of X-Men Apocalypse. Not to be confused with Tom Hardy. This is Ben Hardy. This is a completely different person altogether. I know when I first read that, I went, what? Because he was originally one of the people in talks for Apocalypse, or at least rumored to be connected to that role. But no, it looks as though Ben Hardy will be joining the cast in an as yet undisclosed role. Now, the rumor going out there, and I needed to address this. The rumor going out there is that he will play Angel. Now, the Wrap did report, because the Wrap, excuse me, the Wrap was the outlet that first reported on this, and they did state that while they've heard back from people at Fox stating that this is not the role, he is playing somebody else, there is still a lot of fervor behind this, saying that he will in fact be playing Angel. Ties in with Apocalypse, because in the comics, for those of you who don't know, Apocalypse has the Four Horsemen, and they're like his almost like his mercenary squad. I guess that's the easiest way to kind of describe them. And they've all been played by different X-Men over the years, or different mutants, I should say. So like Wolverine has been one in the past, but Angel has also been one. I believe he was Archangel at the time, but I may be incorrect on that. But so that's what's been leading people to think that he's playing Angel. Also, the physical look of him, I mean, he does look like the character of Angel in the comics. But there's a reason why this does not make sense in any way, shape, or form. I understand that X-Men The Last Stand has been pretty much wiped clean from the continuity. That, however, does not change the fact when somebody is born and making them born decades earlier. For those of you who are unaware, X-Men The Last Stand featured the character of Angel. He was played by Ben Foster. Now, they had a very short flashback sequence in that movie to when he was a kid, which was during the 90s. Now, this movie is going to be set in the early to mid 80s. From my understanding, I believe it's like 1983 or 1984. And that would mean that this character is either not even born yet, because in X-Men The Last Stand, which took place in 2006, he was a character who I believe was in his late teens, early 20s. Let's just, for argument's sake, say early 20s. Well, that then means that he would have been, actually, yeah, let's say he was 20. So that means that he was born in 1986. This movie is going to be set 2 years before the fact that he's even born, and he's going to be played by a kid who's probably in his late teens, early 20s. Most likely the character is going to be put into the late teens, like 15, 16, 17 years old. That to me is why it doesn't make sense, because even though Days of Future Past wiped the continuity from the future franchise, all it means is that the events that took place were wiped away. The characters themselves were still there. The characters' pathways, like Warren Worthington II's his ability to have a kid, and when they decided to have a kid, would not have been made 20 years earlier. They would not have decided that, because he would have been he would have still been old enough to have a kid. Warren Worthington III is the actual name of Angel, and his father was an older he was an older man. I believe he was in his late 30s, early 40s when the kid was born. So there is still a chance that he could have been born earlier, but not to the age where they're going to want him, because they're effectively going to want him about 20 years older than he was. In that case, that means that Angel was already born before the events of Days of Future. You see how this is getting confusing, how this wouldn't work. All the work that they did in Days of Future Past to correct the continuity and correct the timelines would have been completely washed away if they do this, especially if they make him a major character. That being said, there are still plenty of other characters that they could make. There have been rumors that he could be a young Cable. I do not want that. I want Cable to be introduced in his late 20s, early 30s, preferably, because he's such a badass character. He needs that history. So I don't want him to be that character. Outside of that, I really can't think of any characters that they could introduce that we've seen in future movies that would really play a role, at least significant enough to warrant a casting announcement. So I still don't know where they're going to go with this, unless, they couldn't even do that. I was going to say maybe they're going for a younger Juggernaut, because for those of you who are unaware, when Matthew Vaughn was originally developing Days of Future Past, the character of Quicksilver was not going to be in the film. It was actually going to be Juggernaut. So maybe they're retconning that and they're trying to figure it out and maybe make him Juggernaut. Obviously, he'd have to be bigger. But they could do padding, they could do CGI, they could do mocap, they could do a whole bunch of stuff. I still don't know which direction they're going to go. Angel would be a cool thing. The only problem is that it would conflict with the continuity that they've created in the other films. Unless this is Bryan Singer's biggest way of giving the middle finger to Brett Ratner, I really don't know. But to me, I can see them trying to use Angel again, because he was a member of the Four Horsemen. So I could see them trying to get him in the movie. I just don't see how it would work with the continuity unless there's another Angel, or unless they make him Archangel right out of the gate and actually separate those two characters in the movie world. I mean, to me that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but they could still do it. But here's my pitch. Okay? So all this aside, if he is playing Angel, here's my pitch. X-Men Apocalypse finishes out the trilogy for the First Class cast. Then, Fox now sets up a new trilogy set in the 90s, mirroring, in a sense, the X-Men animated series that we got in the 90s. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Like, that theme song is great. It just takes me back to when I was a kid. But you could have the main crew be Cyclops, Jean Grey, Storm, Nightcrawler, Angel, and Beast, and then have Xavier guiding them, very much like he was in the animated series. And then have a whole 90s set trilogy about the younger X-Men when they got into their 20s and they were starting before Wolverine showed up, and really have this new trilogy build up to X-Men. Like, have everything come full circle. Like, that to me would be cool. Excuse me. That to me would be really, really cool. I think that's the proper way to go about it, because to me, it doesn't make sense why they're getting such a top-notch cast for the younger X-Men if they're not going to be explored further. Because, again, this movie's set in the 80s, the Apocalypse, which means that the next one, they could be a little bit older. If it's set even in the mid-80s, then they could have the next one be in 1990 or 1991. And X-Men movies have always been about dealing with relevant issues that are taking place within the world. Like the first X-Men movie was an allegory for gay rights and for, things like that. So having the new X-Men trilogy be kind of a mirror for social rights and like everything that happened with the LA riots and the hip hop scene and everything coming up, and even things that we're dealing with nowadays with Ferguson and all that. Like, there are so many social allegories that they could tackle with these movies that they haven't already done. But each movie has always been a kind of social cue about how do we represent a minority in the world right now, but in a very interesting film or a very exciting film. And this is how they could do it. And then in the 90s, you could have it juxtaposed with race problems and stuff like that, and dealing with the X-Men dealing with that, and how they're, instead of saying, well, you're of a different race, so I don't like you, you could say, well, you're a mutant, so I don't like you. And they could really play that up. And I think that could really work. But I absolutely am through the moon about this 90s set trilogy. I would absolutely love that. That, to me, is one of the coolest things that they could actually do. But I'm more interested to see who Ben Hardy's actually going to play. If it does end up coming out as Angel, I mean, I guess I could forgive it. And it's not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination, but still, there are continuity problems that they would have to address or just completely change the character altogether. So, there's lots of ways that they could go about it. We're still a ways away to figuring out which character he's going to play. That being said, we're probably going to find out in about a week or two. Elma Imby's on the hunt right now. I know that for a fact. So, yeah, X-Men Apocalypse right now is shaping up to be one hell of a movie. Bryan Singer's gone on record to say that this movie is going to allow them to do the types of world destruction that they have not yet had the chance to do in an X-Men film. Because if you think back on all the X-Men films, the action sequences are relatively small in comparison to a lot of the other big budget action superhero movies. There's no cities that are being destroyed or anything like that. The closest was in Days of Future Past, when they picked up the the closest was in X-Men The Last Stand, when he completely ripped the Golden Gate Bridge off of its two ends and laid a new bridge from San Francisco to Alcatraz Island. But outside of that, we have not seen apocalyptic style destruction yet, which is something we're going to get. So I'm very excited for this movie. It's going to be opening up on May 27th, 2016. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about Ben Hardy joining the cast, about the fact that we have an entire new young crew of X-Men and how they're going to be utilized, and how to further utilize those actors that they have in those roles. Let me know in the comment section below, and if we do get more information about this topic, I will definitely update you guys on here. Well, that'll about do it for us here on Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have been a great audience. Go ahead and click that subscribe button there in the bottom corner. You can get updates whenever we post a new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at Niklsun, Niklsun, for all of your movie updates. You can also give us a like on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Movie News with Niklsun. If you ever have a topic or question you'd like to have talked about on the show, you can go ahead and put a comment in the comment section, or you can email us at movienewswithniklsun@gmail.com. And in every Friday episode, we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. But until next time, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.